Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Right to the Top. I'm Adam. So in my previous video, when I introduced the writing course that I will base this channel around, I talked about the different areas of focus, the 5 areas I will focus on. And the first was, getting the tools that you need. And those tools were vocabulary and grammar. So today in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the vocabulary part of those tools and how you can go ahead and build your vocabulary. Now, before I even get into anything, I just want to give a little bit of a warning to the people watching. I'm not going to approach this channel as a beginner level. It's going to be basically intermediate to advanced, right? Now, that doesn't mean that beginners aren't welcome. Of course, you're welcome. But it might be a little bit difficult for you because I'll try to speak in a bit of a natural tone, natural speed, and I'm going to be a little bit creative with my vocabulary and my focus on the things I work on here. So now, what are the things that you want to do when it comes to building your vocabulary? The first thing you don't want to do is approach vocabulary as a memorization exercise, which is, I think, what a lot of people do. They try to memorize a list of words, and they also try to memorize big words. A lot of people who are thinking about writing, they make the mistake, they have a misconception of writing that you need a lot of fancy words. It's actually quite the opposite. Good writing is generally very simple. So what you shouldn't do is memorize big words, and you should absolutely avoid academic word lists. Now, I know that those of you who are taking the IELTS or TOEFL, that's all you're doing is you're going through these academic word lists because you think that's what you need for the test. Yes and no. You do need to know some bigger words, especially for the reading section. But for those of you who are going into university or are in the business world or have a job or running a business, you don't need these big words. So don't stress yourself over it. Don't worry about that. What you need to do is learn more natural vocabulary, everyday vocabulary. Native speakers, the vocabulary that native speakers use. Now, the best way to approach it is to learn words in chunks, which are like small groups that are somehow related. Okay? So now, how am I going to help you do this? I'm going to make videos that focus on vocabulary in those chunks. And I'm going to show you the different chunks that I will focus on in this video. Now, on a personal level, what you should be doing as you're learning vocabulary, there are 3 things that you should really be doing. 1, you should read. And if you've watched my videos in the past, you know I've said this 1,000 times, and I'm sure I will say it 1,000 more. The best way to pick up vocabulary is to read. But then you should also keep a notebook. And every time you learn a new word, write the new word in your notebook. Don't forget to think about other parts of speech for that word, because why just learn one word, right? Learn a few words at the same time. Learn the adjective form, the adverb form, the verb, the noun, etc. And always, whenever you learn a new word, write at least one synonym next to it. So that way you have a little bit of variety and you're learning that much faster. And the most important thing you should do when you learn new vocabulary, use it. If you don't use it, you'll forget it. And it's kind of pointless to do that. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you the different categories of vocabulary that I'm going to help you guys work on in order to build or to expand your vocabulary range. And I'm also going to show you another feature that I'm going to put on my website that will help you build your vocabulary. Okay? Okay, so let's start. I'm going to tell you the different categories that I'm going to be looking at, and I'm going to give you an example of each one so you have a better idea. And I'm going to have my notes here to help me out instead of trying to memorize everything. So the first category, and the one that I think is the most important, because first of all, it's the hardest one for a lot of non-native speakers, especially to use, and especially when it comes to writing, because you have to use them correctly and in their correct placement, I guess you could say, in order for them to work well. And that category is idiomatic vocabulary or idiomatic language. Now, idiomatic doesn't mean only idioms. Of course, you should learn idioms that are commonly used, but you should also learn phrasal verbs, which are often or usually idiomatic, and you should also learn collocations. Now, first of all, idiomatic means that when you group words together, and the common groupings are called collocations, and when you have like a verb and a particle looks like a preposition, so a verb and a word that looks like a preposition, the combination creates a different meaning than the individual words. So for example, the phrasal verb to flesh out. Now, what is flesh? Flesh is like, the meat on top of your bones. That's the literal meaning of flesh. Out, not in. But when you put them together, flesh out means to make more complete with details or to expand. So when you flesh out a plan, you expand on the plan and you make it more detailed and specific until you know exactly what you're going to do. So for example, senior management approved the initial marketing plan, so now we need to flesh it out and be ready to present it to the board by next week. So we have a basic idea of the plan. Now we need to put more meat on it. We need to give more details, make it more full so that we can present it to somebody else and they will have a clear understanding of it. An example of a collocation is bear fruit. Bear means carry, fruit is fruit, but when you put them together, it means to have a positive result, right? After 6 months of dedicated efforts, her social media platform has yet to bear fruit, leading her to consider giving up and looking for a regular job. So she's been working on it, but she hasn't seen any positive result yet. It hasn't borne fruit. And that's a good collocation. So I'm going to make videos specifically for idiomatic language as a way to help you guys build your vocabulary. Another category I will focus on, and I think this is equally important, is verbs. Now, of course, all of you know a lot of verbs, I'm sure, but you have to have a better range of verbs because this will help you make your language more precise. It will make your writing more impactful, right? So I'm going to focus on very useful everyday verbs that might not be that common to you. So an example, the verb recoup. To recoup means to get back something that you put in, right? Maybe that's something that you lost or something that you invested. So when you recoup, you get it back. The band couldn't convince the recording company they would be able to get back the money they invested in producing the album. This is the original sentence. You can make sentences tighter and more precise. The band couldn't convince the recording company they would be able to recoup the album's production costs. And that word makes the sentence shorter, makes it more precise, makes it a much more interesting sentence. And interestingly, you can also use the verb recuperate. It has the same meaning as recoup in this context, but recuperate, the more common understanding of this verb that people use most commonly, is to get over an illness. So when you recuperate in a hospital, means you were sick and now you're there getting better. So that leads me to my next category. Secondary and even tertiary meanings of words, right? A lot of the words that you use every day can be used in a different context with a different meaning that you might not be familiar with. And I will introduce you to these different words that you think are, very, very common. An example, table. Everybody knows table. Table and chair, you eat at the table, you study at your dinner table, maybe you study at a desk, but you also study at a table. A table, a flat piece of wood or whatever with 4 legs. Do you know that there's a verb, to table? To table means to put away for another time, to delay. So if you have an idea, if you have something you want to discuss, but you don't really want to discuss it today, you can table it and come back to it next week. So after considering the motion for a brief time, the MPs, the members of parliament, decided to table it until more information could be gathered. So the politicians didn't want to discuss the motion, they didn't want to vote on a certain legislation until they got more time. So they decided to table it, delay it. If something is on the table or off the table, as a collocation, it means it's on the table, means it's an option. It's a ready, available option. If it's off the table, means it's not an option. We're not going to do it. So a military action is on the table, means, yeah, we're ready to go in with our army. If it's off the table, yeah, we're going to do anything except use the army. Okay? So very good, very useful use of the word table other than the place where you have your dinner. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so now let's move on to function words. Function words are words that are specific to a function, basically. You want to talk about something very specific. So, and as an example, you can talk about numbers. Obviously, there's 1, 2, 3, first, second, third, but there are other numbers that specifically reflect a number. For example, a septuagenarian. Now, that's a very big word. It looks a little bit scary. All that means is a person in his or her 70s. Octogenarian, a person in his or her 80s. But there's a very specific number in that word, and you should know these things. Again, it'll help you save wording and save overly long sentences. Another example, centennial. Centennial means like the 100-year anniversary of something, for example. You can also show chronology and order in time. So instead of saying first, second, next, then, you can also say successive, means one after the other. Uninterrupted means continuous without interruptions. Subsequently means after that. And subsequently can also be used as a transition word. And I'll also look at transitions as functions. Consequently, however, obviously is a transition word. Undoubtedly. So I'll give you some new transition words and show you how to use them. And then you have like position, for example. Conspicuous. If something is conspicuous, it is easy to see, to observe. Something is primed for, it's ready for, it's on the brink of, it's about to happen, or a situation is about to become what it is. So all kinds of different function words, and I'll help you guys build up that part of the vocabulary as well. Precision language, I've already spoken about that. Precision is key to good writing. In fact, it's such an important part of good writing that I'm going to make a video about that very soon to get more details about that. But precision allows you to be brief, allows you to write less while saying the same or more. So instead of saying a second-year undergraduate student in college, just say a college sophomore. Sophomore means second year in college. Could also be used in high school, but again, you'll give some contextual words. You can't simply just say, I bought a house. If you tell me I bought a house, I'm thinking, a regular house, 2 floors, maybe 4 bedrooms, basement, attic, and all that. But maybe you bought a mansion. Maybe you bought a house, but you're thinking condo. So you want to be very, very specific so that there are no misunderstandings. And that's where precision comes into play. Sometimes you just want to create the mood or give a very solid impression or make a stronger impact. So saying that stocks went up sharply, okay, that they went up sharply. But if you say they skyrocketed, that gives a very different impression and creates a very different impact on the reader, because skyrocket means went up very high, very fast. Went up sharply means, it went up sharply. It's not that big a deal, right? Again, you're having different effect. So that's precision language. I'm going to get much deeper into that in another video. And lastly, parts of speech. Parts of speech I won't spend too much time on, but once in a while, I'm going to show you a collection of one word with different meanings. So for example, the word initial. Initial means like first or at the beginning, adjective. You have initially, adverb. Initiate, verb. Initiation, noun. Initiate, noun also. So it's important to know the difference between initiate, verb, means to start something or get something's process started, versus initiate as a noun, which is a person who is being introduced into a group or like a church or something like that, right? So all of these things. And then there's also initiative, another noun. So a lot of different forms of the same word, but you have to understand one, and then you can figure out the others in most cases, not always. So those are the key groupings that I'm going to work on in terms of the videos. Now, If you do want a bit more high-end vocabulary and you want to learn words in good related chunks, on my website, I'm going to have something called the word of the day. So Monday to Friday, I will post a word with a definition, synonym, and a couple of sample sentences. And you can study these words every day, Monday to Friday. If you join the newsletter on my website, every Saturday, you will receive the newsletter with a quiz for that week's vocabulary, for that week's words of the day, plus whatever vocabulary was on the YouTube video of that week. And at the end of the month, there'll be a test for all of it. Plus, you'll get other good, useful things in that newsletter, right? So that's another way to build your vocabulary. Okay, so now the last thing to keep in mind is that there's no shortcut to building vocabulary. It's an ongoing process. It's, again, reading, keeping a notebook, using the vocabulary, but keep coming back, watching the videos, join the newsletter, do your own thing, and just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. That's the only way. So I wish I could give you a secret to doing it faster, but I can't. So now, if you do have any questions about anything I've said in this video, please ask me in the comment section below. Tell me what vocabulary you have the most problem with. Is it phrasal verbs? Is it idioms? Is it big words? What are you having problems with? I'll try to focus my videos on that as well. And again, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give me a like, click the notification so you know when new videos are coming up. Don't forget to go to the website, join the newsletter, and come back soon and I'll see you again and we'll do some more things to write better. Okay? See you then. Bye-bye.